Hey, my name's Chung. I sell art on Chung.co. Today we're going to review Twisters. So this is filmed by Lee Isaac Chung. Time is 2 hours, 2 minutes, so a little longer than I like, but I think for the amount of characters, you need kind of that little bit of extra wiggle room to develop the story. So this is a remake of the original Twister from the 2000s, so maybe 20 years ago. All new cast, of course. And this time it's more of a bunch of teenagers kind of studying the tornadoes. They get lost in a tornado comes upon them, and they lose 3 out of the 5 friends, and it kind of breaks apart the friendship. One girl ends up in New York City, the other one starts his own company, and then they kind of wind up, he pulls her back in to go study tornadoes again and face her fears, right? So that's kind of the crux of the story. It's interesting. I think the remake is actually better than the first Twister, which is very unusual for a sequel to match or surpass the original. I think maybe Empire Strikes Back is the last one I can think of off the top of my head that beat the original maybe. Just more realistic characters, I would say. It's young 20s versus 30s, 40s. Probably a researcher would be in their 30s, 40s like in the original film, but you know, people stupid enough to follow tornadoes probably in their 20s, 30s, so go figure which one you think is more realistic. There's actually this great little backstory with little sets that the girl had set up as a teenager, like kind of similar to the Back to the Future little sets that Doc set up to demonstrate the time machine. She has a whole fake town to demonstrate a tornado, and then when she turns it on, it kind of sucks up the buildings. So that's a really cool visual, I think, for the storytelling that didn't have it in the first one. So that just adds another little bit of extra there. There's an interesting love story between the teenagers in the first before they get taken up by the tornado, and then later by this new guy who's the tornado, what is he, a rodeo or something? My dog's just whining like crazy. It's kind of fun because you have this female lead, and she's a little bit of a romance between the two guys. She doesn't know which one to put on and all that kind of drama behind the scenes. Also, it shows the distinction between the two type of teams. One is kind of this YouTuber team that's just outlandish with no education. The other one is this professional team with education and PhDs, but more ruthless in a way. So it's interesting how she finds her way between the two teams. The last tornado is obviously the big one inside of the movie. She has to save a whole town. So that's kind of a really cool, touching story to the really nice ending to the story. There's also a side scene with a rodeo, and it kind of creates great B-roll, I would say, in the sense that it's a different scene besides her mom's house. Like, you know, it has a couple different settings here that really sets the stage, which makes it better than the first Twister, I would say, and the fact that there's just more variety to the sets, as well as showing her passion of studying tornadoes and really making that foundational much more solid, I think, in this film versus the first one. In the end credits, there's kind of these fun little continuations of the story, which is kind of fun as they kind of, you know, summarize how the story will go on to the future. So that's really fun, I think. A lot of films don't do that. Like MCU is well known for that, to have credits to the next film to get you excited film, which is actually really smart marketing, I would say. This one, I don't think there's gonna be another one per se, but it definitely adds more spice to the story. It has great CGI. I think the first Twister was about equal CGI wise. You know, anything from the 2000 up, it's gonna have pretty good CGI. So about equal. There's more people, I think, in this one get sucked into a tornado. So a little more graphic as far as the dangerousness of tornadoes, I think. I like how they had kind of a YouTuber element to the story. It really modernized the story. The first one didn't have YouTube and no YouTubers, obviously. But this one's 20 years later. YouTube's been in effect for 12 years. There's a lot of people that make revenue off YouTuber, and it's kind of a competitor to Hollywood nowadays. Or for the very first filmmakers, they probably usually get their start nowadays with YouTube, and then they transition to Hollywood. So it kind of has that really nice pull-in effect. And just shows how you can become famous nowadays just off YouTube, which is really weird. Off of 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was like Warhol said you got 15 minutes of fame, but now it's kind of like everyone gets 15 minutes of fame, like the Hak Tui girl last week or so. Yeah, I think it was a really good story. I'd recommend it. I think it's better than the first one, which is shocking, like I said. If you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.